Happy Wednesday and welcome into the All Utah Hockey Podcast. I'm Petey, as always, alongside Craig Morgan, and the hockey season 7 games in for that Utah Hockey Club. We're going to get to the hockey talk a little bit later in the show, but have a really special guest today live. Today, we're happy to welcome in Utah Hockey Club President of Hockey Operations, Chris Armstrong, to the show. Chris, thanks for joining us. It's been quite a start there in Utah for this Utah Hockey Club.
Petey, Craig, yeah, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Is this like a CGI backdrop you've got going here? Because this is impressive.
I'm showing off a little bit of Utah here for you. Never miss an opportunity. We're always recruiting.
It is beautiful. I do want to get a little bit of a recap from you, Chris. Can you maybe walk us through how this job came about, what your relationship with Ryan Smith is, and what it's been like transitioning from Wasserman to the other side?
Yeah, well, it's been a whirlwind. Ryan and Ashley and I have known each other about a decade. We met through some mutual friends. I used to spent a lot of my time in the golf business, and in so doing represented Tony Finau, a famous athlete here from Salt Lake City, from Lehigh, Utah, actually. And so we met through mutual friends about a decade ago, and have built a great and lasting friendship. And a few years ago, we were actually away with the CEO of the Utah Jazz, Danny Ainge. The three of us were watching basketball one evening in the Bahamas, of all places, and Toronto and Boston were playing, and it was a game I had great interest in because I was representing Kyle Dubas at the time, who was the then GM of Toronto, obviously now the president and GM in Pittsburgh. So I made a joke, how are we going to get some hockey action on the TV that night? Because I didn't want to go and watch it somewhere else, because we were having a good time. But it kind of organically turned into a great conversation with Danny and Ryan about hockey and the plan for Utah around using sport to unlock the potential of the state. And being that it is such a famous winter sports market and Olympic legacy here, and Olympics again on the horizon, we started to just explore and flush out this idea of what hockey could potentially mean in the state. And so with that and some of the relationships that I had, we went and had a meeting at the commissioner's office with Gary Bettman and Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly. And I think, from that first meeting, it was clear to me that they really saw the potential of Ryan as an owner, and by extension, Ashley as well. And conversely, I think Ryan saw the potential growth opportunity in hockey, and so we started building a relationship over several years with the NHL, and lo and behold, we're running an NHL team here in Utah now.
Yeah, at least you had a lot of time to launch it, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of an accelerated time frame, but that's a testament, and one of the reasons that I came to join Ryan and Ashley here and work for SEG was because of my exposure to the people in the organization, and my proximity to everyone at the Jazz. And I knew if there was any organization that could pull off a 2 to 3 year time frame in six or so months, that it was this group here. Yeah, we've exceeded our own expectations. Still, obviously, a ton of work to do every day, but we're thrilled to have the season off and running now.
Yeah, one of those things I wanted to ask you about as far as timeline. I was up for the opener at Delta Center, and it was an unbelievable atmosphere. I know you have big plans. What can you tell us about those plans, the timeline, and maybe some idea of what it's going to look like when it's all finished?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be one of the preeminent buildings in the National Hockey League. Certainly one of the loudest. It already is. I think our players would testify to that. But essentially, over the next few summers, we're going to expand the seating capacity for hockey in the building, get it up to about just over 17,000 by making some changes to the lower bowl, pushing the building out in both ends, and it'll certainly have one of the steepest pitches in the lower bowl of any arena in the NHL. And a lot of that is based on the experience that currently exists for the Jazz. I think as you probably have heard, it's one of the best experiences in the NBA. Again, one of the loudest buildings, and the fans are really on top of the court in much the same way we want them to be on top of the ice, and really create sort of an intimidating and challenging environment for teams to come in to play us, and for it to be an advantage for our group. So we're very grateful to our fans for their patience and in understanding this is a complicated plan that we're still working out in terms of how to optimize the building for hockey, and depends on obviously the success of each team and how deep they might go into the playoffs in any given year. Will determine how quickly we can get all of this done. But the plan is over the next several summers to get the building up to about just over 17,000 for hockey.
Really curious to see what that looks like when it's all said and done. I wanted to ask you the same sort of thing for picking a nickname, picking uniforms. Do you imagine those will be a significant departure from the current uniforms, or will it be lesser tweaks, or maybe just a logo in place of Utah? Have you gotten very far down the road on those things?
Yeah, it's something we work on and talk about every day, and have been since the day we acquired the franchise. One thing I would say is that the jerseys have been very well received from our players to our fans, and so we want to honor that. And obviously the color palette we've chosen has been very well received as well. So I think we want to be careful not to change things too dramatically, especially with the positive feedback that we've received up to this point. So I think our focus right now is to continue to improve and evolve that brand identity. Obviously, the name is a part of that. Obviously, a logo for the team will be a part of that. And hopefully, as this first season unfolds, we'll be able to give some periodic updates about the progress we make in those areas.
Chris, I think it's important. Yeah, I'm the hockey guy, so I want to talk a little briefly about hockey. I think in order to have a successful franchise for a long period of time, I think you need to have grassroots organization. I think you need to have boots on the ground. I think you need to really drive that youth hockey and get new fans and new players playing. And Utah Hockey Club is very committed to getting youth hockey really off the ground here. What's the current state of youth hockey, and what do you envision it to be in the future with the helping of the Utah Hockey Club?
That's a great question, Petey. I think we want to definitely honor and respect and add to the existing programs across the state. And there's other organizations here that have that predate us, including a rich history with the Utah Grizzlies. They've done a number of awesome and outstanding things in the community that we want to support and augment. We obviously are going to introduce some of our own new programming at the grassroots level. We want to get sticks in hands and everything from on ice events to street and ball hockey, hockey 101, hockey in schools. We really want to expand the existing infrastructure that exists here, and also understand that having an NHL team is only going to create new and additional demand that we need to meet. And we take that as a big responsibility, not only in terms of the practice facility we're building for our permanent home in Southtown, which we will move into a year from now, but using those sheets for community hockey programming when we're not there will be an important part of that, as well as looking to what we can do to support additional ice sheets throughout the state of Utah.
GM Bill Armstrong put together a pretty strong team in the business office, or excuse me, the hockey operations department. He's got David Ludwig, Daryl Plandowski, Ryan Jankowski, and Lee Stepniak. He built that team. But where do you feel you are right now in the state and the process of the rebuild that he's been working on over the last few years? Where's the team right now?
Yeah, we like to qualify it as being about 40% of the way through the rebuild, is how we look at it. And to your point, PD, the most attractive part of this process for us in this sort of hybrid expansion relocation was the opportunity to effectively have an expansion team with the ability to acquire an entire roster of players, prospects, draft capital, and an outstanding group of hockey operations personnel. That really gave us the motivation and the energy to really try to stand this up in the time period that we had, knowing that a lot of great work had been done prior to our arrival, and that the opportunity to be a successful organization in short order was there if we continued to give the right support and resources throughout the organization. So I think we're in really good shape. This is going to be an important learning year for our group, an opportunity for some of our young guys to take a significant step forward, to be a part of that future. Obviously, the acquisitions that we made in the offseason give us some of that experience and championship pedigree that we might have been lacking in the past, and it will rub off hopefully on some of our younger players. So I think this is going to be another year of growth for us. We have very measured expectations about where we're going to finish, and we hope to be competitive right to the end and challenge for one of those last few playoff spots.
Let's dive into that a little bit more, Chris. I'm curious what your day-to-day interactions are with Bill, with hockey ops staff, and then looking at this even further, the state of the rebuild. Is there any desire at all to maybe speed this up a little bit in a new market, spark interest, or are you content with the time frame that Bill has consistently laid out?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, my role from the standpoint of hockey operations is to continue to support Bill in his vision for building a championship team here in Utah, to provide him with the resources that he needs to do that, to ask the right questions, to continue to optimize our processes and our processes and decision making. Our ownership group is patient. They understand where we entered the mix in terms of the assets that we acquired, and I would say that there's obviously a lot of buzz and excitement and energy around the team, but there was a very methodical and deliberate plan in place when we acquired the roster and hockey operations department that we want to honor and respect. If we can make any change to improve the team, we're going to do that, but not necessarily with an eye to accelerating the process of this rebuild, but rather continuing to make the right decisions for sustained success in the organization. We want to be a team that contends every year for the Stanley Cup at a certain point, and so we're not going to make short-term decisions that compromise that long-term objective.
Okay, well, I want to ask you one last question. I know you've got a lot to do today with the Jazz opening and all, but I wanted to ask about your relationship with the Tucson Roadrunners, your AHL affiliate. I don't know if you've even gotten down this road. As we mentioned at the top, you've had about a million other things to worry about. Is there a desire to maintain that relationship, that affiliation beyond this season, or would you like it closer to home, or have you even thought about it at this point?
Yeah, in terms of where we want our affiliate, we haven't given much thought to that. What I would tell you is we have a great relationship with the Roadrunners. The Murillos have been great to work with so far. As the owners of that team, we feel a great place for our players to continue to develop. If there was an opportunity to have our American League team, closer in geographic proximity to us, of course we would explore that. But for now, we have a multi-year relationship with the Roadrunners, and I don't see that changing based on how the relationship is going at this point.
All right, thanks, Chris. That's all I have for you. So thanks for your time. I think PD has one more time for you.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for your time. I will say this, Chris, because I used to work for with a lot of people in this organization, and Stan Wilson, when I talked to him about you, said Chris is a good guy, and when you get called a good guy by Stan Wilson, that is a very, very high bar. So I look forward to having you on again. Thanks for taking the time, Chris. Best of luck and have fun at the basketball game tonight.
PD and Craig, thank you. And I will say one thing about Stan Wilson. There's been no one more important or more instrumental in the smooth transition of our personnel and operation to Utah than him. He is a world-class human being, and I obviously knew of his reputation in the NHL before we met Stan, and he's lived up to it in spades. So that's very kind and a compliment I take very dearly.
Thanks,
All right,
Chris.
thanks,
Appreciate you coming on. We'll see you soon.
You got it, guys. Have a good evening.
Well, Craig, a lot of interesting comments from Chris Armstrong, and it's the first of many. I have a feeling he's
Yeah.
really good. He's really good. Another good-looking guy with a beard. We had Steve Potvin from the Tucson Roadrunners. I don't know. I might have to start doing that blur thing with my face. And on the other side, Chris,
I got a
after
thought.
Chris,
You
yeah.
could just shave it off, and you only have to compete with me then. So.
Yeah, well, that's a little more even ground at least. And we're gonna get to another special guest in just a few minutes, but a couple of comments first. First, Craig, Foco. Foco is the leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and so much more. Best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms, whether it's hoodies, jackets, beachwear, or even Craig's favorite, his overalls. I can't decide what color overalls Craig's going to get yet, but I'm going to get him overalls from Foco for Christmas. Craig puts the fun in Foco. There's something for fans for almost every occasion. We talked to Chris about the start of the Utah Jazz season. Get all your Utah Jazz merch, and the Utah Utes are in full swing. Get their collectibles and merch. And I said this last time, the first official Utah Hockey Club merch is there. You can pre-order the Dylan Gunther first goal bobblehead. I can't even say the words. Foco always has our back for sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by visiting foco.com and using the code AllCity10 for all non-presale items. Use the promo code AllCity10 for 10% off. Then is Rugged Road, and they're dedicated to creating a durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Whether you're on land or on the water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. Rugged Road coolers are designed to always float upright, so you never lose a drink in the water. Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip. Great for everything from fishing, tubing, camping, tailgating. These coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor and sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to Rugged Road. That's a hard word to say, Craig, by the way, when you're trying to talk fast. RuggedRoadOutdoors.com and use the code AllCity for 10% off. RuggedRoadOutdoors.com. Use the code AllCity for 10% off. Well, I guess before we even get a chance to breathe and talk about what Chris Armstrong had to say, I'm most interested in what they do with youth hockey there. I think it's important to get the youth hockey. I know there's a youth hockey base started there already, but when you bring an NHL team into the community, it's only going to grow. Okay, Craig, without further ado, he isn't a friend of the program yet, but he's going to be a friend of the program, the voice of the Utah Hockey Club, Matt McConnell. Matt McConnell. Notice I said the voice and not the face.
It only took, 4 years for me to come onto this show? How long have you guys been doing this, by the way?
But it's only because we ran out of absolutely every other option. Matt. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We love you, Matt. We love you.
I don't doubt that for a second. I just want to know, does Foco have red and white overalls?
Yes.
The same ones that Craig wore in Madison,
right,
for Badger football games?
The answer is yes. Buddy. You need the green and white ones for Sparty.
Absolutely.
Back with the Sparty hockey and or football. I'll do better at that. Maddie, I honestly, thanks so much for joining us. First of all, just thrilled that you're still getting an opportunity to follow this franchise and call these same players. You do an outstanding job every single night. Thrilled that you get to follow their journey and appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I tell everybody that I got waived and then I got claimed. So, it was an interesting summer, but, I caught kind of the tail end of your interview with Chris Armstrong, and I can't remember the last time I was this happy professionally. And that's not a knock against, any other organization or whatever. It's just that the culture here is off the charts good. And I know Chris has a lot to do with that. We got a good group here. Maybe the team's turning the corner. I don't know after last night, but there's good. There's a lot more good now than there is bad on the ice. So it's great. And I'm not just saying this. I kind of I wish that I could have brought everybody from Arizona with me to Salt Lake City, because I know there are a lot of fans back there that are, bummed. They're hurting right now. So I encourage everybody to come up here. It's a great place. It's unbelievable. I didn't know a lot about the city until I got here. I called minor league games here years ago, but there's a real good culture here, not only with the organization but in the city. People are nice. The food culture here is unbelievable. I'm going out to a place here in a little bit that I guess is off the charts good. So it's been a really good experience. I'm not going to lie. They're first class in every regard.
I want to talk about the team and your perspective of the franchise launch in a minute, Matty. But is this 31 years now in the NHL for you? Is this?
No, you know what? I think it's 29. I was trying to add it up, and my Michigan State math kind of, when I got
with
to
your
50.
sabbaticals. You had your sabbaticals. That's right. I forgot. You went to Europe for a year a couple times, and
Yeah, I did a sales thing, but the main thing was I did college hockey for 4 years.
yeah.
And then I jumped in and I was kind of part-time for a couple of those years. So I don't know how you do. And then I worked in the studio and all that. So it's been a long time. There are a
Yeah.
lot of people. There are a lot of people that are younger. The guy that was calling the game for Ottawa last night for TSN, it was his second NHL game, and he was working with Jamie McLennan. So yeah, you see all the young whippersnappers coming up, and you think about how many games you've done. I just passed 1900, which
Okay.
Wow.
which was pretty cool. Yeah.
Anaheim, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Minnesota, Arizona, and now Utah. Did I miss any in your NHL stops?
No, the Michel Petit of play-by-play continues to roll along.
Yeah.
You're chasing Lee Stempniak. I think you'll get to 10 at some point. Is it still exciting, fresh, new to you, Matty,
Yeah.
when you open a season?
It's unbelievable. I love what I do. My old partner in the booth in Atlanta, Darren Elliott, former goaltender, former Cornell guy, played with Brian Hayward at Cornell. He always said, "Do what you love and love what you do," and I love it. And this has really been a renaissance for me too. I'm working with Dominic Moore, Nick Olczyk, Sarah Merrifield is our sideline person. We got Kim Becker in the studio. She came in from Colorado, did a bunch of stuff with the Avalanche and the Broncos, did stuff down at the U of A as well. She's a U of A grad. So the whole group has been wonderful. The guy that pretty much heads up the entire group is Travis Henderson, and he's the VP of broadcasting for the Utah Jazz. So, it's refreshing that we have broadcast people making broadcast decisions when it comes to what we need, to try to put on a good show, cameras and stat services and things like that. So it's just been, I live downtown. I'm about 10 minutes away, if that, from Delta Center. It's just been really cool. My wife's up right now. We're kind of going back and forth, ham and egging it. It's great to have her in town. We went up to Park City on Sunday. Now when it's snowing sideways up here sometime, they say it happens a couple of times a year, I might feel a little bit different. But in all seriousness, it's just been great, and I truly love it. And I think this has been a renaissance of sorts for me.
Well, you mentioned all of your sort of line mates. And as you know, I'll just say this as an aside. I have a history with the Olczyk family, and man,
Yeah.
I listen to Nicky. I see him. I see his mannerisms, and Matty, it freaks me out sometimes. He's so much like his dad. He is so much like his dad.
He is a lot like his dad, and man, can he break down video.
Yeah.
And I know that was really appealing to the people that were putting the team together. I didn't know a lot about Nick. Just to show you how old I am, I did NHL radio with his old man way back in the day. He's not a very good horse prognosticator, though. We went out to Lone Star Park one night in Dallas. You can tell him I said that. He didn't win a single race, and I was piggybacking all his bets. So I was out $100-200 on the night. But yeah, Nick is wonderful, and Dominic Moore. We're calling the game, and it's the first intermission, and he's looking at highlights off Sport Logic from the first period, trying to figure out what went wrong. He's a real student of the game. he's got some great stories too when he went up against Sidney Crosby in some of those Rangers Penguins matchups. But it's just a great overall feel for the entire group, and we're going to do altcast too. So that's given Tyson Nash an opportunity as well. He's going to be a big part of the altcasts, which are basically going to be Manning casts, and I think he's going to excel really well in those. He's been involved in pre and post game shows too. So he's in the middle of it. It's great. It's great to have an old familiar face in there. So overall, it's just been wonderful. And not having any clouds over your heads has just been awesome.
Yeah. One more question for me along those lines before I'm obligated to let Petey speak. What has been your...
I know I just sit here and collect a paycheck. That's fine.
What has been your boots on the ground overall perspective of this launch, Matty, in spite of this insane timeline that they were operating under?
Remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. It's funny. I was having Stan Wilson's in town right now, and I heard you guys talking about Stan with Chris, and he had such a massive part of getting all of this done. Right, Pat Murphy, another guy that was part of the Coyotes that was part of Hockey Ops that came to Utah. Same with him. It's unbelievable what they've been able to do in 5 months. Let alone still run a National Basketball Association franchise on the other side. So, in a way, I almost feel guilty because I came in at the last moment. I really wasn't finalized until second or third week of August, and then everything started going really quickly leading up to training camp. But they've just been they've been unbelievable. Everything that they have done, and on the broadcast side, that's lining up trucks, getting all the bells and whistles done, what they have done to get Delta Center ready. And we all know the renovations are going to begin next summer to eliminate the obstructed hockey view seats. So it's been remarkable. And I have no idea how they did it in 5 months, but they pulled it off. And I just, I was talking to Stan about that today, and he said, he was amazed. He was absolutely amazed. But just really dedicated people and people that love what they do, and it's been unbelievable.
I saw one of our listeners had a comment, a great nugget about you early from the great Graham Taylor that said Matty McConnell did NHL radio with Foster Hewitt. And if you know who Foster Hewitt is, that is a comment about the age of Mr.
Yeah, well, you know what? Graham produced that game, and it was his 10th season in the league, and he did a great job. Yeah, I think he probably had 4 stouts before he even produced the game.
Go, Graham. Hey, Matty, I'm going to talk about hockey. This team started off on fire out of the gates, win 3 games in a row. Then they've won 1 of their last 4. Struggling to provide offense right now. What are you seeing from this club that either A, got different, or what do you see that can be the improvements this team can make over the next few games?
I think early on, Petey, they were just freewheeling it, right? And they were scoring a lot of goals, but they were giving up a lot. I think the game Saturday night against Boston was their best defensive effort. I think they really, at one point, we had them limiting Boston. Sometime in the third period, Russell Brooks, our statistician, had a nugget saying that the Bruins had 1 shot on goal within 25 feet. And so they were terrific. And I think last night against Ottawa, I think it's a prime example of a team that had an opportunity really to jump out to, maybe a 2-goal lead early. They had all sorts of chances. Josh Doan had 8 shot attempts last night, and that matched his career high from his very first game when he scored the 2 goals. I think they really miss Sean Durzi right now. I think they're trying to figure out, how to fill that void, which I don't think you can unless you go out and make a deal. I don't know if they're going to do that, but considering 2 of the injuries are, the main ones, the Marino injury and the Durzi injury, are going to be long term in the span of say 3 to 5 months. I think they may go that way. That's just, my hunch. But it's hard to make deals this early in the season. And it's, we'll have to wait and see on where they go with that. It'll be interesting to see if we actually get to see Maverick Lamoureux tomorrow night. I gotta think he's going to play, but they did not say one way or another if he would. I would imagine we'll find that out tomorrow. So I think they're getting better defensively, but at the same time, I think they. I think they need to play a more north-south game and get where they had their early success was getting pucks to the front of the net and jamming the crease and things like that. Barrett Hayton has been excellent in that regard for this team, and I think he's off to a great start. There's a lot of individuals that have played very, very well. So I think what they need to do is I think they need to generate a lot more offense from between the dots, in the house, try to funnel everything that they can in front of Georgiev tomorrow night when Colorado is here, and just keep trying to get better defensively. I mean, four new faces on the blue line right now, right? So it's going to take a little bit of time. I talked to Ian Cole about that, and he understands that, and they've gone over that and they've worked on that a lot in practice. So that's going to take time, and I don't know if you guys believe this or not, but I don't care if you're acquiring Steven Stamkos or anybody else, but if you're going to make 7 or 8 changes into your lineup, it's going to take a while for that lineup to mesh, right? So
Yeah.
I think we saw it in Nashville, right? Here it's a lot of changes on the back end, so I think it'll continue to get better, and as we move along.
One of the things, Matt, you brought about Maverick Lamoureux getting called up, and we said this before on the show that we saw him as a player in the minors that could get an opportunity to play this season. I will say this to your prognostication that he might play tomorrow. If Mavlam's welcome to the NHL moment is getting to play against McKinnon on his first night on home ice, I wouldn't be surprised if they held him out another game and just kind of waited and let him play the first game on the road against the LA Kings. But again, what the hell do I know?
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe that'll happen. I think Robert Bortuzzo has been pretty good in there. Robert's not the fastest player, but he's smart and he's good on his angles and things like that. I think Vladislav Kolyachonok, I thought at times in the Boston game he struggled. He's still kind of an up and down guy, and as you guys know, Andre's all about, trying to create consistency with the young players through longer stretches of consistency, as they develop. But then I think after he scored the game-tying goal, he had all sorts of confidence. He looked a little bit like a different player, but it's just reads and, where he's dumping pucks off to and his decision-making. And it continues to get better, don't get me wrong. But he's not Sean Durzi, right? And he's not John Marino. And that's kind of the hard part right now is you've got, you got 1/3 of your blue line that's not going to be available for 3 to 4 months. And so what do? Do you go out? Do you make a deal? Can you make a deal this early? It'll be interesting to see how that all just kind of factors in and plays out.
Matty, I got to tell a little bit of a backstory before I introduce this next question because people.
I think I know where this is going.
What the heck I'm talking about here? So yeah, we're talking Bus Tunes. You probably saw my preview tweet. Bus Tunes is a Matty McConnell creation, and somehow when we traveled, any city we would land in, the way it works, you get off the plane. Yeah, you'll explain that in a minute. Players get on one bus, all the team personnel get on one bus, and then they throw the media and the scrubs like us on a separate bus. But Matty always had Bus Tunes queued up with local bands. He would find local bands and he would start playing the music. So first off, I need to understand the origin of Bus Tunes, and then I need to know if it has survived the trip to Utah.
Well, here's one. Here, I'll play this for you right here.
We're gonna get copyright laws.
No.
Maddie, you can't play the music, Maddie. You can't play music, Maddie.
Well, hold on. See, this would be a great Bus Tune right here. The best of bread.
You can say that, but you can't play it. You get us in trouble.
The best of bread, I think, was.
And he thinks he's in TV. We don't have that copyright laws like you have on all these fancy TV shows that you have, man.
Let the man speak. Let's go.
Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or any other. Uh, no, I just, you know what I did? I started it one night. We won. I don't know where we were. We won, right? And so, everybody's having a, you're feeling good, right? You're feeling good. You're feeling right. It's Saturday night or whatever the song is. And I just wanted to start it to kind of get everybody, to have a little bit of fun while we're going to the airport to get another plane to go somewhere to arrive at 2:30 in the morning. And that's kind of how it started. And I tried to play as many cheesy tunes on my phone as I possibly could. And considering about 99% of my music is cheesy from the 70s and the 60s, I liked it. By the way, we've got an off night in LA on Friday night, and a bunch of us, like our director, producer, Nick, we're dragging Nick Olczyk along. He has no clue who they are, who this guy is, but he's going because he's a team guy. Our radio guy's going. We're going to see Jeff Lynne's ELO at the Forum. At the Forum.
Wow.
Like, are you kidding
Wow.
me? Are you kidding me?
Impressive.
Like Jeff Lynne, and it's the final of the final. Like, this is his final tour, and the Forum is his final shows. So I might like get a Jeff Lynne, Afro crazy wig and wear it with like with some dark sunglasses or something. But I guarantee you, ELO music is going to be fired up on this thing in the Uber going to the Forum. I can't wait. And he just played. He was supposed to play at Footprint last 2 nights ago, and it got canceled and moved to, I think, next week. And so my daughter and my wife are going to go see him play. And my daughter and our song was Mr. Blue Sky when she was little, right? That was our song. So I can't wait. But yeah, that's a perfect Bus Tunes tune, right?
So
Yeah,
I'm,
well,
I'm
Maddie,
happy to hear it has survived. Yes.
At times, yeah, yeah. They're making fun of me though because I live in a nice place here, and they're making fun of me because when I get my car out, it's on one of those lifts. So
no.
you go downstairs in my building, and you got to wait for them to jockey all the cars around, and then the thing goes up, but it's always broken. So yesterday I had to take an Uber to Delta Center because I couldn't get my car out. And if your car is like down below ground, it kind
Yeah.
of comes up, and the lights as it's kind of getting shifted around on the platform, the lights pop up. So it's like the creature from the lagoon coming up, right? And just
Oh
kind of
God.
coming up and showing its face. It's that's a whole nother story. But
Sounds like
anyways.
the Barclay Center with the bus elevator. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't have this, but
Yeah.
like oh God, it's so finally I went down today and I said, "Can I get a different spot that doesn't break down every day?" And they were very more than accommodating. So
Well, Maddie, first of all, I want to say we're thrilled because you looked happy, and I'm so glad that you landed on your feet and things are going great for you. And we will have you back on again because we want to have these check-ins with people that have their boots on the ground with this franchise and see how this team is playing. They've got a tough schedule ahead, and I know you hit the road for a couple of fun days in Winnipeg, which I'm sure will be lovely this time of year. Enjoy that. But again, thanks so much, Matt. We will have you on again and appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today.
I think of you guys all the time, and your coverage continues to be stellar, and it's always great. And let's don't make it another 4.5, 5 years, okay? Can we
Yeah,
do this
I
again
promise.
soon?
I
And
promise.
Thanks, Maddie. Enjoy ELO.
yeah, I
Yeah.
will. I may call you from
Yeah, you
the
can play it.
Uber,
Yeah.
Craig.
I'm gonna play
And
Evil
and and
Woman. Okay.
and good luck to ASU at Northern Michigan this week. And that's that I
Big
wish I
tilt.
was there to be able to go to games, and but I'm thinking about them as well.
Well, we may make a trip up to Salt Lake in the very near future, and we'll make sure we stop by and say hi.
I'll alert the sheriff's office if you're
Yeah.
in the county,
Alert
Petey.
security. Yeah, Jim O'Neill. We're not too worried about that threat. Just kidding.
Wow.
Just kidding, Jimmy.
See you,
See you
Maddie.
later, Matt. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you guys.
Oh, Craig.
Yeah.
What a guy. What a good guy.
I know.
It's good to see happy people.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. I miss
And
him.
I think
I miss him.
that The one thing talking to Chris Armstrong and now Matt McConnell, one thing I can say about what's been going on at the Utah Hockey Club, management, ownership, employee, staff, that's it. They're happy. I mean, it's you get in a good working environment with a good ownership group, and it trickles down. It's real. And I will say this because I've been in NHL locker rooms for most of my adult life, makes a difference. Going to the rink happy every day makes a difference. And I know they've struggled over the last few games, but I think the long-term goals can be met there because guys are happy there. Guys feel like they're being cared for. And I don't just mean the players. I mean, everyone feels that. And I think it's important.
Yeah, and we had Chris on. To me, it was encouraging to hear him sort of echoing the plan, right? They're sticking to the plan so often. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily a horrible thing. Like Vegas was an entirely different situation, but sometimes ownership needs certain things from the team. They need to fast track things because they need to survive financially. That's not under consideration. It doesn't sound like here in Utah. They are content with the plan that Bill Armstrong has laid out. They're going to let him see it through. I think that's the right move, Petey. I think you agree with me. This is how you build sustainable success. This is what we've been saying for a very long time. Let them see this through. They have a ton more draft capital. They can use some of it to acquire players while their younger players develop on the NHL roster or in the system. This is the way to do it. Don't mess it up by trying to interrupt it or fast track it. Just let it play out the way it's supposed to play out.
I agree with you, Craig, but here's a concern. And Chris kind of did bring it up a little bit. When you have two key pieces of your blue line, and Sean Durzi and John Marino, we had hoped to be a big part of the defending, be able to defend on the team, penalty killer, all of those things. And Sean Durzi took a step from what we saw over the last season, and he really become an important piece on the back end. Not gone for days or weeks; they're gone for months. So I'm not sure if. And hey, I don't know. I think the best place for Maverick Lamoureux to develop, I believe, is in the American League. That's just my belief. I'm not a coach and or a manager. So I'd like to see them try to make some kind of a deal to get an NHL defenseman in here.
Yeah, I agree with you with Mav Lam, and I do think that's the plan. I don't think he's going to be here for the long term. And I know people are like, well, look at what happened with Dylan Guenther. Dylan Guenther had a lot more NHL experience under his belt. And by the way, Dylan Guenther's a wing. He's not an NHL defenseman. This is a really difficult position to pick up. Just step right in. I don't think that's the plan. I know that they're concerned about rushing these defensive prospects. They want to let them cook in the AHL. I agree with you. I guess the question is, what type of player are you looking for? You're probably not going out and trying to find a high end guy, Petey. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe there's a guy that's available via trade that is more of a higher end guy, but you have to think about what you said earlier. Not a lot of teams are looking to make deals this early in the season. Everybody's still figuring out what they've got, so they're not ready. Yeah. Beyond that, what's the acquisition cost? How much are you willing to give up? Yes, they have draft capital, but if they go acquiring that player and bringing him in, what happens when Marino gets healthy? What happens when this entire blue line's healthy? What happens when the prospects are ready to step in? Have you not blocked the path if you're getting a guy? Do you want maybe more of a stopgap, maybe a veteran that can help you fill in? But again, I think it has to be short term because you risk a lot if you try and go out and do the other thing, try to replace what you've lost. I don't know that that's necessarily the move, especially where this team is in the state of its rebuild.
Well, it's funny because you talk about veteran guys on the back end. You got Ian Cole already, Robert Bortuzzo, who I think has played serviceably for sure in his limited role so far. And I think those experienced guys are great to help teach younger guys in their development. But I look at Mavlam again. They've got 7D up right now. Somebody's sitting out. And if you're bringing up Mavlam to sit out every second or third game, it makes no sense to me. So I want to bring up another name. It's a guy that played for this organization previously, a lot of NHL games, experienced NHL guy. Again, older, but might be able to accept that 6th, 7th role as Kevin Connaughton. What do you think about the ability to bring a player like that up who can sit out games? It's not ruining his development because – buddy, he's past the development stage. No offense to Kevin Connaughton, a guy I really like, but that might fit this role a little bit better, at least in the short term.
I think that's part of his job description. I think that's part of why he was acquired. Yes, they wanted his leadership down in Tucson. They figured, if in a perfect world, that's where he would serve the majority of his time, helping bring those guys along because he's that sort of presence that they like. But they knew, every NHL team knows, you're going to have attrition on your back end. It just happens in this league. You're going to lose defensemen. So I think he was the guy that was, in fact, acquired to be that guy that can sit out some games, who can be the extra defenseman. He understands that role. He knows how to slide in when he has to. So yeah, I would expect to see that at some point. But again, are they going to go make a deal too? And if they go make a deal, I got to believe it's more for, and I don't know what you think of this, it's got to be for more of a mobile puck mover, right? They've lost two of those guys. And I know Marino isn't necessarily an offensive guy, but he's mobile. He can move a puck. Sean Durzi obviously is an offensive defenseman. Do you try and replace that side of it rather than get another, sort of defensive defenseman, which is, sorry, outdated term, but go ahead.
The answer is yes. I mean, Andre Tournier wants to play fast. He wants to get the puck up the ice quickly. He wants to defend fast. He wants to get through the neutral zone fast. You add another aging defenseman, that's not playing fast. The problem you've already mentioned, you're 7 games in. There's nobody in the National Hockey League right now that's moving a young puck-moving defenseman. Nowhere. You're not going to get that unless you're talking about giving up draft capital or another young, skilled, talented forward. And there is no chance, from what we heard from Chris Armstrong, that you're selling the future for short-term rewards. So unless there's somebody, in my opinion, and I don't know, we haven't done the research because this injury was announced today, but a bad contract that's on an older, but still a defenseman that still has something in the tank, but has a bad contract. Maybe that exists out there. But I don't think you're going to find exactly what we're looking for this early in the season. And that's why I firmly believe they're going to have a hard time picking somebody up right now. I think it's something you could do in a month from now, or clearly as you get closer to the trade deadline. I just think right now they're going to have a problem.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that makes sense. Looking at the state of this blue line period, and I know what the pairs were supposed to be at the start of the season. Sergachev was going to play with Marino. Like, when I even look long term, I don't think that's the pairing. I think they are waiting for Dmitry Simashev to slide right alongside Sergachev, and that they hope is their right. And he can be that stay-at-home guy. He is. We already know that he has an advanced defensive game. He's a really mobile, big guy. So look down the road. How far is Simashev away? He might not be that far, Petey. And I don't know if it makes sense to slide him into a top pairing role his first year in the NHL. But remember, he's playing in the KHL right now. He's playing in the second best league in the world. He's maturing. He's a little bit older, right? So I think there's a chance that we see Dmitry Simashev on this team next season.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. As this show continues to go on, we're going to talk about some of these prospects. And Dmitry Simashev is one of those guys that was a surprise first-round pick by Bill Armstrong, one of the few people during the pandemic that was able to get over kind of, we'll get a gray area on how he was able to do that. He wasn't supposed to be there, Bill, but he gets one of these players that no one else really got their eyes on. And this kid, I tell you what, Sergachev and Simashev, yes, please. I'm starting to think marketing opportunities here too. So I do think there are some. They're not going to pass up the long-term goals for short-term success. There's no question. But see, talk about short-term success. Tough night last night against the Ottawa Senators. We got just a few minutes left here. Ottawa Senators come in, shut out Utah at home for their first loss in the Delta Center this season, and they do it dramatic fashion 4-0. Panic button?
No, not first of all, not this early in the season, not with where this team is in its development. You like the start. You've seen some promise. Yeah, and Andre even said it. He didn't think they even played that poorly last night. It's just, you know how this is, Petey. You get in a hole and then it's really hard to dig out. I like a lot of what I know that they haven't won as much as they won early in the season, but I still like a lot of things that I'm seeing from this team. And again, you just lost two really important pieces of your blue line, and this team is still on the development curve. So no, definitely no panic button at this point.
Yeah, and I think for me, there's so many young players in this lineup, and they're still trying to find their fit. We've talked about injuries and people playing out of where they normally play. Bugsted's still not in the lineup, so they're
Yeah.
shuffling guys in and out of the middle. They're not in the lines that we thought they would be, or they thought they would be in. I still think there's a learning curve there. This team is going to be like that this year. I think there's nights you're going to go, oh gosh, they weren't quite there. Bear said that. Bill Armstrong said that. He said there's going to be nights and you go, ooh, they weren't very good. I think that's pretty. This is the Utah team you're going to see. And
Yeah.
I want to bring up the next topic is their offense. And you talked about this earlier, Craig. Their first 3 games, they had 16 goals. This team is unbelievably offensive. And you said, we'll see how long they can sustain that. Well, they got 16 goals, 3 power play goals, and 5 goals by Dylan Guenther in the first 3 games. The next 4, total of 6 goals, 1 power play goal, and Dylan Guenther has been scoreless through those 4 games. Is there a concern about their offense?
Again, way too early. No, I like a lot of the pieces here. I like, again, Nick Bugsted's not in the lineup, so keep that in mind and how it filters through all the different lines and impacts roles and everything. But I like what they have. I like Barrett Hayton's start a lot. That to me is one of the most encouraging signs of the early season. And I said it on the last show. If Barrett Hayton somehow now becomes a top 6 center, Petey, to me that changes the entire trajectory of this franchise. Because if you have Logan Cooley and Barrett Hayton, where you can say, yeah, they're both top 6 guys. Wow, okay, you've got some really nice pieces around them. We know about some of the other talent, that's coming. Scoring, it comes and goes. You probably have to defend better, first of all, and play off of that. Any coach would tell you that your offense is going to come from your defense. So hopefully they shore up things in their own end a little better than they have. But I think there's enough talent here. You're just going to have ebbs and flows. I'd like to see Matias Michele get going. I'd like to see Lawson Krause get going offensively.
Yeah, and for me, it is those young guys. And Cooley, I still think we're waiting for him to break out. I know he's been more of a playmaker so far this season. He's been exciting, and some of the plays he's making have been absolutely elite. But I'd like to see him start to put some pucks in the net. I think their offense is coming. And one of the things I talked about on one of the shorts I made for YouTube is their ability to get to the net. And I think it's McBain and I think it's Hayton. And I think those 2 guys have made their lines better, their line mates better, and I think they've helped create offense. So I think what you need to see tomorrow, especially against this Colorado Avalanche team that has struggled in their own end and their goaltending has struggled again. I think you're going to see Annunen tomorrow. I think Georgiev's going to get a break. I don't think he's going to play for a while. Annunen was great last night. McKinnon and Makar were otherworldly last night. The concern I have for tomorrow is the ability to defend the speed that the Colorado Avalanche have without Jersey in the lineup. How are they going to be able to handle that speed? I think the offense will be there tomorrow. I predict actually a power play goal tomorrow. So if you want to get on and take a chance on that. Craig, thoughts on Colorado coming to town?
Well, you're right. Like I had wondered what the heck was happening with that team. And listen, we talked about injuries those are definitely playing a role. Will any of those guys? Will some of those guys come back? We don't even know about that yet. But Colorado is decimated right now. But we have had questions about their goaltending for a very long time. Don't know if they've shored it up. Maybe Annunen is the answer rather than Georgiev. But it's obviously a team that has some high end skill. It just feels like it doesn't have enough depth and they don't defend well. That said, anytime I get a chance to watch Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar play hockey, I will tune in because they are 2 of the most elite players in this league. Nathan McKinnon, his skill set is like very little that I've ever seen. He's such a bull aside from all of his speed and skill. He's just an incredible player to watch.
Yeah, those 2 last night on Frozen Frenzy, Makar and McKinnon, were absolutely amazing to watch. The chemistry they had last night was unreal. They were exciting and fast. So if you get a chance to watch tomorrow, either in person at the Delta Center or on TV, keep your eye on number 29 on that Colorado Avalanche team. He is unbelievable. He is right there for me with McDavid and his ability to break out in a game. For Utah to win that, they have to contain that speed. They're going to have to get above him, and they cannot turn pucks over in the neutral zone. Emma, do you have the upcoming schedule?
No, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot.
The Magic behind the Mac,
Right.
but that's okay. And we can talk about it because they have one game, that one game at home against Colorado, quick one gamer at LA, and LA is improving, but LA is another one of those teams that are up and down. I think that's a winnable game, but then they come home to San Jose. That's where, honestly, they have to win. They have to win. And I know it's early in the season and it's the must wins, but you can lose one. You can't lose 2, 3, 4. And so I think the San Jose Sharks is one of those games that they don't look ahead to it. Don't start looking for points. Don't make it point night. Play your system and play your style of hockey, and that's a game you can win. So the upcoming schedule finishes off their last home game against the surprising Calgary Flames.
Yeah, who saw that coming? But you're right about those streaks too. That's a sign of development. That's a sign of maturity when you can stop the bleeding quickly rather than sliding into one of those mega losing streaks that just craters a season. We watched one of them last year, obviously.
Yeah. Well, Craig, one other player I want to talk about here before I wrap things up is the play of Connor Ingram. We saw Coach Andre Tourigny over the last few years alternating his goaltenders at times in the season. Last year, they alternated for the first 20-some games. This year, he's riding Connor Ingram. Do you think that's the right play? And 2, do you think that's sustainable right now?
Well, I don't think it's sustainable, and I don't think Andre will even tell you that it's sustainable. He'll always say that he's going to need both of his goalies. I think he liked a lot of what he was seeing from Connor Ingram early. It might be time for, to lean on Carell a little more. And I'm not saying that Connor Ingram has been bad by any stretch. We talked about their defending. I think that's the bigger issue when you're looking at Utah right now. But he's going to use both these guys as the season rolls along. I still think Connor Ingram's the guy. He's the 1A versus the 1B, but Carell's going to get plenty of time this season.
Yeah, and a couple of comments. Been there, done that. You're right. I should have memorized the schedule. But again, we remember my age. Been there. I know we were talking about my hair, or I don't know what Ben there is, but he's concerned about my hair. And that's why we were late, because it does take me a while to look like this. You are absolutely right. And Duncan from Idaho, he's right. Like one of the issues, you cannot overplay goalies in the NHL right now. You need to have 2 goalies. I believe that the game is too fast. The schedule is too hard. The players are too good. You need to have 2 goalies that can get ice time. You have to. I don't think the Iron Man days of Martin Brodeur and Patrick Roy are over. Like, you've got to be able to play. You got to have a backup that can play 20, 25, 30 games. You have to. So I know that Karel Vejmelka is going to get his chance in the upcoming games. Craig, thanks as always. Make sure you get onto the allcitynetwork.com to read all of Craig's written articles. Craig, anything coming up soon that Utah fans can listen or read, not listen to,
yes.
Read?
I don't want to give this one away because this is kind of a special story that I'm working on, but I do have a fun story that I've been working on for a while, putting the finishing touches on it now. But while you're waiting on that, I did get a chance to do a deeper dive on Kailer Yamamoto as well.
Oh, nice.
Talk to his dad, talk to his agent, talk to a bunch of people in his life, talk to Pierre-Edouard Bellemare. So who apparently had a massive influence on Kailer Yamamoto while he was in Seattle. It's fun seeing guys getting opportunities like this. He seems like a great kid, first of all. And I know he came into the league thinking he was maybe the guy that was going to play with Connor McDavid all night long. That's not how it worked out. Sometimes you have to adjust your expectations in the National Hockey League if you want to stay in the National Hockey League. It sounds like he has come to that realization with the help of all those people I mentioned. He's been in the lineup recently. We'll see where it goes.
Well, make sure, again, check out Craig's content at allcitynetwork.com. Follow the show on Twitter at @all_Utah Hockey. Follow Craig at Craig S. Morgan. Follow me at S. Peters Hockey. And most important, subscribe to our YouTube channel at All Utah Hockey, because we are dropping more video content all the time. You don't want to miss game breakdowns, previews. There's a lot on there. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at All Utah Hockey.
Can I jump in on that?
Yes.
I hope you are seeing what Petey's doing. I hope yours. This is why I love working with Petey. Petey was an NHL coach for 23 years. When he breaks down plays, systems, whatever it is, he knows what he's talking about. And if he doesn't know what he's talking about, he has the contacts to reach out and find out what he should be talking about. Go and watch Petey's breakdowns. They're unbelievable. It's an incredible asset to our company.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate that. And make sure you read your articles and listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Like this before you jump off, and leave us a review where you get your podcast. As always, that's Craig. I'm Petey. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.